Greetings, Iowa HOSA members. On behalf of our association, I'd like to welcome you to the Healthcare at Frontline series. This year, we are bringing together business and industry leaders in a virtual format to help U.S. members see the many career opportunities in healthcare. My name is Yula, and I'm your Iowa HOSA Vice President of Fundraising for the year 2020 to 2021. I'm excited to be here today with our healthcare expert, Jay Christensen, with Lucas County Health Center. Lucas County Health Center is an affiliate of Unity Point Health. Jay serves as the interim chief executive officer and the chief financial officer in the healthcare industry. We're so glad that they have joined us today to give us insights into their career field. Please join me in welcoming Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jay, for being here with us today. Before we begin, I'd like to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to our members. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization you work for?
Yeah, my name is Jay Christensen, and I'm the interim chief executive officer and still chief financial officer of Lucas County Health Center here in Sheraton. I've been here just almost a year, but I have nearly 35 years in healthcare experience when you combine it all. So I've done this for a day or two.
Wonderful. If you're ready, let's get started with some questions about your
Absolutely.
experience. What education was required?
I have a bachelor's degree with a major in accounting, believe it or not. That was where I started. And then I worked as a chief financial officer in a rural hospital, my hometown actually, back in Storm Lake, Iowa for 10 years. Realized I wanted to do something different and to move into more of an administrative position. I pursued my master's in healthcare administration. And actually since then I've added a master's in business leadership. So I'm kind of one of those people that's a believer in lifelong learning, and you can't preach it if you don't live it. So
That's really cool. Do you hold any certifications and did it require extra work or education?
I do. I'm actually considered board certified in healthcare administration, which means I'm a fellow in the American College of Healthcare Executives. I also am board certified in the Healthcare Financial Management Association back from when I did a lot more finance. In between, I did a lot more administration. But yes, I've reached both of those, and I'm a certified public accountant. So I've done all those at some point in time.
What continuing education is required for your position?
The continuing education for the one that I focus on most right now is the fellowship in the American College of Healthcare Executives, and it requires about 40 hours of formal continuing education every 3 years. Most of us get more than that. It's so challenging to stay on top of all the government regulations that it's very easy to reach those numbers. So it's a rare week that I'm not reading at least an hour or two worth of things that we might consider continuing education.
So you would have to take classes every 3 years? And
Yes.
describe a typical day for you.
Typical day is I'm an early morning person. So on a perfect day, I'm in the office by 7 o'clock. That doesn't happen often this time of year, but on a perfect day, it does. And then I spend a lot of time just working directly with people. My job really is facilitation of people and needs and resources. And so I bet 70%, maybe 75% of my time is spent in meetings with 1 to 5 people. And now in a COVID environment, obviously more of that spent online than would have previously been done face to face. But it's very much a people business.
Was this position your original career path or ideal job? You've mentioned accounting. So if you don't mind answering, why the change?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, I would tell you I had two fairly major career changes, and neither one of them did I anticipate. I started out working for a CPA firm and thought that I would eventually progress to a partner position. It became clear that wasn't going to happen in the organization that I worked for. I happened to play league golf with the CEO of the local hospital when they were looking for a chief financial officer. And we visited, I applied, I interviewed, and ended up working there for 10 years. At the end of that, we had worked on the hospital that I worked for had purchased a clinic, and part of my role was to work with the physicians in that purchase. Realized that I enjoyed the administrative piece, and so had an opportunity to go to work for a smaller critical access hospital. And that position actually I would have started back in 1996. So I was a CEO from basically 1996 to 2018 and took a step back. I've been teaching since then until about a year ago when I started this position. So I've done a number of different things. None of them were planned, except for the transition to education was a little bit planned. And even then I missed healthcare. So here I am back.
What do you wish you would have known when you started in your role?
I wish I would have known that I was going to need some of that education, and I would have done it when I was younger. It was my first master's degree came when I was 40 years old, and I would have loved to have done that when I was younger. But at the same time, I probably wouldn't have appreciated it as much.
How has your job changed since you started?
Oh my, job change, a lot more community involvement, I think, or at least that's what will be over time. Interim CEO is a little bit different from the standpoint that you're sort of holding a seat while they're recruiting uh, a permanent CEO. So it's a little bit different. But so I'll give you my perspective as what a CEO was when I did that. And it's just so much more community based. You know, in the past, you just spent a lot of time on day-to-day operations, and it's so much more connection to the community because in a rural community, people get health care where they know someone cares about them, not just cares for them. And so part of my job is to make sure that people understand that is what we do.
What is your favorite part of your job?
You know, I like working with people, and that's, as a trained accountant, you'd say that's not logical with your background. I still like numbers, and I love to work those two together. But I very much enjoy, I'm one of those rare people that probably enjoys meetings. Now, I don't enjoy meetings if they don't have a purpose, but I do enjoy meeting with people.
What is the most important skill you need to be successful in the field?
Communication, and it's the hardest one. I think the one thing I wish I had taken was another psychology class when I was in college. I just think understanding how to better understand how other people think and then how to communicate with them is outstanding. I sort of go back to a quote. One of my favorite books of all time was Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. And he always quoted that communication is about seek first to understand and then to be understood. And I wish I had known that, 30 years ago.
That's a pretty amazing quote. If applicable, what groups or activities like professional associations, organizations should you be involved in to prepare for the field?
Yeah, I think anytime you can get involved in a leadership program of any type, if you want to be involved on the healthcare side, there's student memberships to American College of Healthcare Executives, there's student memberships to Healthcare Financial Management. Definitely, it's always good if you can connect with local leadership organizations. It just gives you the ability to connect with people, and that becomes so important. My dad always used to say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's not true. It's both. I mean, you have to know some things, but it's also connecting and understanding how to use those connections to benefit the organization that you work for.
Is there any else you would like to share with Iowa HOSA members as we close out our interview today? Any life advice, tips, and tricks?
I probably have a lot. I probably could talk a long time, but I think one of the things that I shared with the group recently was to really understand the value of using people connections. When you get a chance to, every time you meet with someone, it's a chance to learn something and to be open to listening and understanding that other people learn a lot. There's a local CEO that I used to spend a lot of time with, and I don't think I ever had a conversation with him that I didn't learn something. And those can apply to your life, they can apply to your career or whatever, but be open to whatever someone else is saying that can be valuable to you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to share information about yourself and your job.
Thank you.
Iowa HOSA members, don't forget to check out other interviews in our Frontline Healthcare Worker series.